And welcome back. Okay, the back end of that video finished a little bit abruptly, which no idea why that was happening. Anyway, what I want to do is just talk about something that that I've actually come across a problem with this before, again in the sidecar racing world. It's to do with chain alignment to swing and arm position. Now obviously Honda knew when they designed the engine, they knew that the output shaft on this particular engine was going to be lower than the split centre line of the cases. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to the other engine for a minute. See where the screwdriver is? That's the split line. Top half of the cases, crankcases, bottom half of the crankcases. Following it through the clutch shaft where that clutch push rod would go, and obviously the output shaft is mounted in this colour. So the output shaft, essentially what I'm trying to say, is lower than the split of the top and bottom half crankcase. So when they designed it, they knew that. They knew that where that output shaft was going to be, and then they positioned the swinging arm point accordingly in relation to the output shaft. Super important. Okay. Now, as you can look at your own bikes, as you're probably all aware of anyway, the top run of the chain has even got a little bit of a rubber guard there to stop it eating the top of the swinging arm here. So the top run of the chain is always very close to the top of the swinging arm, and obviously it's a lot more clearance to the bottom run of the chain. Now, if I leave, well, to explain what I mean now, I need to go to the engine. So let's just have a look across at the engine. So here we are with a motor. I'm just going to spin this round a minute. Tape measure out there that's been measuring all sorts of stuff. Let me spin this round a minute. It's a bit busy in here at the minute, but there's been a lot going on with this, so get that out of the way, and we're looking at the same thing on the engine. Now then, on this engine, the centre line split there, follow it through the shaft that the clutch is on at the other end. As we said before, this one's actually got a push rod in, and as we can see now, the output shaft is in the same split. So back to the engine behind me in the bike, this output shaft is lower down, it's down here. Okay, in the VF750. Okay, it's not along the split line of the crankcases there, like this one is. So if we move back to that, so there's the split line of the crankcases again, on the end of my screwdriver, through the shaft, the clutch push rod in it, and as you can see, the output shaft is lower. So back to that, as I said, Honda knew, obviously, that's where that was going to be. So they've mounted, in the frame design, they mounted the swinging arm pivot there. Now, so what's going to happen when I put that engine that's on the bench over there, in this frame, in a similar orientation to what that is, that output shaft is going to be higher up. Okay. Now that being said, with the output shaft being slightly higher up along the split line of the crankcases, that means that the top run of the chain is going to be up here somewhere, coming up onto the, I mean, you can see the sprocket's actually going to be kind of there. You know, it's all just, it's not a guess, we're not guessing it, we're actually quite accurate in the fact it's going to be, put the screwdriver down, the sprocket's going to be somewhere kind of there with the VFR in. Now that is going to be in the wrong place. The swinging arm pivot then is going to be in the wrong place, because the chain is going to come off the top of the sprocket up here and head for the rear sprocket, and the gap between the swinging arm and the top one of the chain is going to be geometric. For the geometry of the frame, it's in the wrong place. Now, I could say we used to have a Westlake in a sidecar, and when the Westlake got taken out and the Kawasaki Z1 engine got put back in late 70s, because of the difference in height to the swinging arm position on the sidecar frame, it actually, when the power came on with the top one of the chain pulling it, it actually lifted the back wheel. It attempted to pull the back wheel up, and it caused it just induced wheel spin. Every time the taps opened on it, it just induced wheel spin. So the point I'm making now is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do because I've had this experience before. So what you make of that what you kind of want to make of it. But when that engine behind me is in here, that will be up there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plasma cut out the whole of this swinging arm mounting position. So it's about 40 mil. I've measured it all. It's about 40 mil, 35, 40 mil in that ballpark to put the swinging arm pivot back in the same place to the sprocket position when the engine goes in. So when you think about it, 35 mil, just over 10 mil over an inch, obviously, the angle of the swinging arm will just be a little bit more angled. Okay, so, and if you look at any pictures of any of the VFRs and what have you like that, that's kind of how they are anyway. So I am using the VFR750 swinging arm. I bought one. So when that's here, I'm going to assemble it all, get the wheel on it, and then I can align sprockets and everything like that. So again, my first port of call, or my next port of call really with this, is going to be get the engine out. As you can see, the carbs are off now, and look, the oil's been drained out of it. It's been a bit busy. There's tools everywhere again at the minute. And on the frame, I've kind of marked there where the pivot point original one is. Not that it's kind of relevant. Like I say, I'm going to cut through without a plasma cutter. I'm going to take this section here out and get everything off the bike, put the pivot in the swinging arm when the engine's in, and basically make up some new, essentially put that up here, just put that up there about 30 mil. So just make a nice new curved, which will incorporate, sorry, not on this side, on the other side it'll incorporate the bottom engine mount as well, like it does originally. So yeah, a bit drastic, but then not really. It's all part and parcel. If you're going to do it, for me, we do it right. Like I say, the sprocket up here, the sprocket's up there, the actual chain run is going to go like that. So there's going to be the bottom of the chain will be really close to the bottom of the swinging arm, and it's just not in the right orientation. It's not in the right place for it. So I don't want to get in a situation where it's pulling the swinging arm in a different direction, trying to perhaps pull it upwards, under power because of the angle and the position of the. But believe me, it is a phenomenon that does exist because we have encountered it before. Swinging arm position in relation to chain pull is always in that orientation. Okay, so also to allow for suspension compression as well, because as that suspension compresses, that run of chain will slowly move up. But it's not just that. Yeah, that's where we're at. The carbs are off. Like I said, just pulled carbs off the motors. Getting ready now. I'm going to get the exhaust off next. Oil's been drained out of it, so that doesn't bloody pee out everywhere when we start racking her out. So yeah, next stage. But that's ultimately what we're up against. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that out, as I say, and if we go around to this side and this section here, I mean, it's bloody close anyway. I mean, look at that in there. Look at that bolt to that. I think this side of the engine is slightly bulkier than the same side on the new engine, but so yeah, I mean, ultimately that is going to be just slightly up there, which is going to put that swinging arm at a slightly more inclined